Puppy, you ready? My name is Devin and this is The Book Tender. Very excited to be here today because I am reading Mate, aka Bride Number 2, the second in the Ali Hazelwood Bride series, which I did read Bride. And now I've read Mate. And I just want to get it right now. I did come to this in good faith. I liked Bride. It was not mind-blowing, obviously. It was just kind of an easy read. I thought it went by fast. I read it really quickly. I liked it. I was excited when I saw this at the library and I picked it up because I thought I was going to like it too. No, not the case necessarily. I've got a little beverage here. Ooh. And today, it's actually really good. This is spicy. It's got a little heat, a little chili pepper to it, which I thought was fitting because we are reading a book, I would say definitely the most explicitly spicy, spice-forward book that I've covered on this channel so far. You know, I like a little heat. I'll say that for sure. However, I will also say this cocktail is not just spice. It is not just one note at all. It is balanced. There's mezcal in here. There's two different types of mezcals. I used one that was just a regular Joven mezcal, and then I used another one that was a mezcal that I had infused with a little bit of chili peppers. I also added a bit of lime juice, fresh lime juice, and some Aperol, and a little bit of an elderflower aperitif in here. Shook it all up. So there's stuff going on. There's a balance between the elements in this cocktail. It's not just one thing over and over and over and over again. Look, this Bride was the only other Ali Hazelwood book that I've read. And now, having finished this and kind of knowing what I do, I realize that Ali Hazelwood is not the author for me, and that's fine. This review, just like every other review I make, is for other readers. This is not meant to reach the author's devoted fans, friends, or family. I don't know if the same issues were in Bride and I was just not paying attention to them. I really don't think that was the case. I didn't reread it ahead of this, but I didn't think it was necessary. But it just felt like people told Ali Hazelwood some things that worked well in the last one, and she was just like, great, I'm going to do that times a million. I'm going to pick those specific things and I'm just going to ramp them all the way up, turn that dial so as far as it can go until it cracks off. And that's what the book's going to be, because I thought, the last one, paper thin plot, relatively very shallow world building. I thought, okay, great, we get a second book in this series. Now we did end clearly leading into what we were going to be focusing on, which is that her, the main character from the last book, Misery, her friend, her BFF Serena, this book covers her and the wolf man that she loves or is, bound to. I thought, okay, we'll build out the world more. We're staying with the werewolves. We'll learn a lot more about werewolf lore and history and culture. No, that's not really what happens. Goodreads Choice Award nominee for Reader's Favorite Romantasy of 2025. I would not even call this romantasy. A human hybrid and an alpha were claw against the bonds of fate in the highly anticipated companion novel to the New York Times bestselling Bride. Serena Paris is orphaned, packless, and one of a kind. Coming forward as the first human were hybrid was supposed to heal a centuries-long rift between species. Instead, it made her a target, prey to the ruthless political machinations between wares, vampires, and humans. With her enemies closing in on her, she has only one option left, if he'll have her. As alpha of the Northwest Pack, Cohen Alexander commands obedience. His authority is so absolute, only a fool would threaten his mate. It doesn't matter if Serena doesn't reciprocate his feelings, nothing will stop him from keeping her safe. But power-hungry vampires and wares are not the only threats chasing Serena. Sooner or later, her past is bound to catch up with her, and Cohen might be the only thing standing between her and total annihilation. We are hopping right in to Mate. I have so many thoughts. Last time, we start with a prologue. The child had been trained well, not by her family, but by life. When the door broke down and she ran for her mother, it wasn't to seek comfort, but to provide it. Come with me, she wanted to beg, but since the words wouldn't come out, she tugged at her sleeve. Come with me, it's better this way. These people have broken in, she tries to get her mom to leave, her mom's not. There's also like another where it seems there. Nobody's in with her. So she ultimately hides in a closet, and she hears all of this, violence happening outside, and a different where comes and finds her in the closet. And she thinks he's evil at first, but he doesn't harm her, and he takes her to go get food. No context for this thing at present at all. Then we jump into chapter 1. If such a thing as an ideal night to die existed, it would not be this one. There was so much wrong with it. I could bitch about the recent rainstorm, the weak garlic clove-sized moon, the uncharged phone sitting on my nightstand. The main issue, though, is that I'm wearing no more than 2 items of clothing, undies and a camisole. Okay. Right in with Serena, the character that we're going to follow in this book. Find out that she has her, she's now officially a half human, half werewolf hybrid, and it seems like her genes are really starting to take over. She's, she didn't really have that strong of a genetic response to it for a long time, but now her genes are really active. Or something is chasing her, and we realize that it's a vampire. Vampire's after her. She's trying to shift because she's obviously in danger, but she's not able to. She's running through this forest of, it seems like, Oregon at night, and she has dozens of small cuts down her shins and her feet, which honestly felt intentional at first, but I don't think that was the case. The wind carries his ever closer smell, and I don't like what it tells me. Vampire, adult in his prime, eager. The thrill of the chase titillates him, and his arousal scrapes against the bottom of my stomach. The wind carries his ever closer smell. Why would you do that when the wind carries his smell ever closer is right there and a lot less awkward? But we do realize that the vampire can't kill her, but he's going to hurt her. Can you, though? A male voice interrupts him. It travels in our direction from someplace in the thicket of trees, a rich, slow curl, at once vicious and detached. No answer exists that could phase this voice. Can you really, buddy? Oh, God. It's Cohen from last book, the Alpha. He's just there. You are Cohen Alexander, aren't you? The Alpha of the Northwest? I sure am. What's your name, bud? That's not important. If you come any closer, Cohen clucks his tongue. You gotta tell me your name or I have to make one up. Any ideas, Serena? I clear my throat. I like Bob. Bob the vampire. Love it. That's not my name. It is if the lady says so, Shartstain. Want to tell me what you're doing in my territory before I rip your balls off and shove them down your throat? Shartstain. Oh, God, and it's only the beginning. It is truly just the beginning. Serena has gone public with her identity, being a half-were, half-human, and all sorts of things all these vampires want her, they're after her, but they can't kill her, so they're trying to nab her. Grab onto this action scene in the very beginning and with both hands, because it is going to be about the only bit of real action or excitement that we get for over 200 pages after. This vampire is chasing after her in the woods. Cohen appears just in the nick of time. The vampire's already got her. We gotta really establish some things about Cohen in this first chapter, and the intention is that Cohen is not a good guy. He's a bad guy. He's a bad boy, so we're gonna show that. The vampire's outmatched, and so he's like, you could kill me, or we all know that this is your mate and she has denied you, so while I'm holding on to her, why don't you take a turn? Take yourself a turn here. So assault. Okay, great. And then there's a moment where the vampire had kind of ripped the top of her night shirt, and he pulls it more, and now her breasts are just fully out, and Cohen is just struck. I guess he's still playing along. The vampire loosens his grip a little bit, and she always had a rock in her hand, so she turns around and she guts the vampire with the rock, but it doesn't really kill him, and then he goes for her, and Cohen takes out the vampire before he can really do much more damage. First chapter over. Thank gosh. We flash backwards. Next chapter. 4 months back. This puts us right where book 1, Bride, ended. AKA Cohen is at the house to drop off Anna. He sees Serena and he knows immediately that that is his mate. Serena's upstairs. She's in the office, at Lo's house. We're at Lo's house. At Lo and Misery's house, I guess. And Serena's upstairs in this office. She's trying to plug in her computer. Cohen comes in and he's like, the charger's not plugged into the wall outlet. And there's so many long running jokes. Like, that is a good enough. It's just like, okay, so an inside joke that kind of runs along is that relationship development? According to this book, it is. In lieu of real relationship development, we're just gonna add more inside jokes that run throughout the story. Cohen knows that she's his mate. She doesn't know. So for a second, we're like, are we really gonna do the exact same thing that we did in the first one, where it's so obvious to the reader, it's so obvious to everybody else, but the female main character is not going to know that she's the mate. She's this person's mate. But thankfully, that's not what we do. Cohen does tell her. It's kind of in a roundabout way. He is disdainful towards her first. He starts to have a conversation with her. He's like, what did I do to deserve this? And she is terminally quippy, unable to not constantly just like word vomit these very bizarre, quippy little jokes. Actually, every single person in this book, in this universe, it seems, has that same diagnosis. I shouldn't even joke about that, given what happens later in this book. A little emphasis on the physicality. She's small. She's so small. And he's big. He's a big, mountainous mountain of a man. What a unique, original dynamic that I have never seen before. Even considering its creativity, surely that won't be emphasized every single opportunity that we possibly can, right? Right. Lo appears, and he's like, did you tell her? You're my mate, he says, with oh, that was too much inflection. You're my mate, he says, with little inflection. Excuse me? I don't know why I'm doing these voices so dirty, but I am. You and the vampire are close, right? He asks, full of that calm that borders on indifference. Is he making fun of me? She explained what a mate is. Slowly I nod. What misery is to Lo, you are to me. Is this a terminal diagnosis? His lips twitch. No cure, I'm afraid. I see. Well, this relationship sure escalated quickly. His words surprised me, but the way the corners of his eyes crease in amusement shocks me tenfold. His laugh is a deep, warm chuckle that makes my heart stumble. You have no idea, kid. His once-over is skeptical. You're what, 5 feet? I'm 2.5 inches over that. And for your information, the other day, these stubby little legs butchered several vampires. Look at you go, killer. Okay, great. So there it is. Killer. Killer is her nickname, and it is used so much. This is just what their relationship is for the whole book. That was on page like 30 or something. That's their relationship for the whole book. There is no development, practically speaking, in their emotional relationship from the kind of tone and tenor of that interaction. That is it. We have a version of that conversation happening 30,000 times throughout the book, and that's the majority of it, because again, the plot was nowhere to be found for pretty much this entire story. Weirdly, she doesn't really understand. I mean, especially the weird part that she doesn't seem to understand is the physical side of a mate. Again, this is a paranormal romance set in a world that is like the equivalent to ours. If somebody came up to me and was like, that girl is that guy's mate, and it was something to do with animals, I'd be like, okay, so mating. What does mating consist of physically? Pretty much it alludes to one activity, but that has to be like explained to her so explicitly. What's happening here has very little to do with loving or liking Serena. What does it have to do with then? A beat. His lips curve. Really? I stare at him, stumped. Oh, killer. I'm happy to spell it out for you if you need me to. I do need you to. Like I'm 5, preferably. Not sure I can make it anything under NC-17. You really need that explained to you like that? there are a few rare moments of like genuine introspection, given the fact that this is a character who pretty much from the start, I mean, there's a bit of back and forth in the timeline at the beginning, but we are very close to her having had arguably one of the biggest, most shocking, most traumatizing years that a person could possibly go through. And she shows most of the time just reluctance to even ever, she does not reflect on that in any meaningful way. But there's a couple little moments, and this is a rare one. She talks about how, as the human friend of the collateral and an orphan to boot, she was deemed and treated from the very beginning as kind of expendable, and as like a woman who's treated as an expendable, or a girl really who's treated as an expendable figure, that meant really early like unwanted sexualization and predatory behavior from adult men particularly. And I think that that's a really great and insightful and nuanced topic to bring up in a book. It's not talked about enough. It's so true. Typically, or I would say predominantly, this is especially put on girls who are Black or brown, girls who are minorities. There was this detail that I really loved I loved the movie Sinners. This came out last year. Loved it so much, saw it 3 times in theaters. Loved. If anybody's on here and they like these types of books and you haven't seen Sinners, highly recommend. But one of my favorite details, it was full of great details, but one of my favorite details that was so small is that at one point Smoke is talking to a girl who lives in the town that they're in Mississippi, and he's asking her to watch his truck, and there's this whole back and forth where he kind of teaches her how to negotiate. And he's explicitly calling her like little girl, and she's a Black girl, and she's probably 12 maybe, but she's like tall and she's big, she's not like a small little girl, but she's still a little girl just because she's stretched out a bit more and she's a bit fuller, but she's clearly like a girl. She's not a woman in any way, shape, or form. And it was just really nice to see that in such a small, like just even small, but still have that representation of an adult man looking at a girl who is maybe tall and bigger, like she's just not a frail body, but she's still a girl. So I mean, like, I think that was a very insightful bit for this character of Serena. I wish we got so much more of that kind of like genuine reflection on her experience, given as the collateral orphan friend, given everything that she's learned in the last year. Cohen makes it a point to be like, all that said, explanation, everything, all that said, this is not an invitation. You're my mate. I'm acknowledging of what that is, but I'm not inviting you into this. And she's kind of like, well, could I feel the same? Like, I don't, this is her first, she has just learned about this 5 minutes ago. And she's kind of like, well, could I? And he's like, no, you would know. And it's like, well, she's a hybrid. Who knows? But she's also been through so much. But he gives her zero grace, zero chance to try to figure that out. He's just like, no, you would know. Still, she begins to say, like, I would be willing to go out if you want to grab like a coffee or a drink. And he just straight up bitch slaps her back to yesteryear, emotionally speaking. He is so mean about it. No, hey, I'd love to go on a date with you was ever uttered more clumsily, but it's okay, because Cohen's eyes soften with amusement and indulgence and maybe some affection too. That's what makes his words feel like a razor-sharp knife sliding between my ribs. I meant what I said, killer. This mate thing is about fucking. The part of me that matters isn't interested in you. Like me or don't, he said kindly. I really couldn't care less. Has the word kindly ever been used in a less appropriate instance? That was so unkind. Brutal. I'm going to take you down, girly Q. Another time jump, back to present day. He brings up the fact that she didn't shift and that she can't shift, basically. And he like immediately knows it's bullshit, and he points out something about another time that she was able to shift when the moon was even smaller. And he also asks her why she decided to disappear, because apparently why she when she was up in that cabin where she started, where she got attacked, she just fully like ditched everybody and gone there solo. The reason I decided to disappear if that's even a word you can use for someone whose whereabouts were never not accounted for, is that the things I had to deal with in the past year include, in chronological but not traumatogenic order, I lift my hand and begin counting with my fingers. The slow realization that I'm not fully human, the even slower realization that I'm much wolfier than I ever believed, my abduction and subsequent imprisonment at the hands of vampires, baby's first mass murder in which I partook as the murderer, and at long last coming out to the rest of the planet as the first ever human-were hybrid. This is not how people talk. I'm going to admit that I'm being a bit of a hypocrite because one of my favorite shows of all time is Gilmore Girls, which is full of a very fast-paced dialogue that has a certain cadence and style. The difference is I find this very cringe and the humor very silly. And what I loved about Gilmore Girls references was that they were references to stuff that was not even current at that time frame when they were making the show in the early 2000s, and it was fun. I see that the author graduated from the same dialogue school as the Marvel screenwriters, where it's just quip on a quip on a quip on a quip. Cohen gives her context about the attack with the vampires. Lo called me earlier today. 2 vampires, Bob and some other jizz muffin, tried to hack the Southwest and triggered some intrusion detection systems. Jizz muffin? Jizz muffin. Oh, why are you doing this to us? The vampires are looking for both Serena and Anna. Then there's a bounty out for a hybrid brought back to them alive. Serena in her head is talking, kind of thinking about this whole situation. She's acknowledging that she lied about when she wanted to go to the cabin and just needed relaxation, but we're in her head, we're in her first person point of view, and she's not acknowledging the truth of what's actually happening, which is so annoying. And actually, I think that this is a cardinal sin for authors. I shouldn't say that with too much authority, but I think it's ridiculous, and I've seen it done in a couple of different thrillers as well, where they want to have this big twist ending, but it requires the character whose first person point of view you're in to never think about the truth of the situation because it would otherwise reveal that information too early. That's ridiculous. That's kind of a ridiculous ask, and it's a little bit frustrating to me that authors are doing that. Serena continues to lie, but Cohen is seeing right through it. He's kind of the only person who seems to be able to see right through it. Your self-imposed isolation, how much weaker you've gotten since I last saw you, the fact that you smell exhausted, your affinity for lies, your refusal to shift even when your life depends on it. You know, I challenge him mildly, if you're accusing me of something, you can just come out and say it. Nah, it's more fun to corner you into admitting it. He clearly has feelings about what happened tonight. They include frustration, worry, anger, and even a hint of distrust. I'm not sure how I know, since his stony profile hasn't moved a millimeter. Maybe I'm getting better at guessing others' emotions by scent, like a real were. The book is so concerned with having these wares, especially Serena at times just can use scent to decode a situation. It happens so much that I had to come up with a word for it, and after going back and forth on a couple different options, I settled on smelepathy. Like telepathy, but for smell. She's also like, ugh, but he's obviously just annoyed with me. He doesn't even really care about me at all. That's why he was there the moment I needed him. We love it. We love an intentionally obtuse character, and so does this author, because she did it in the last one. The part of me that matters isn't interested in you, he'd said, and I do not doubt it. Why do you not doubt it? Every single thing about his actions is saying the opposite. And for a few hours, I don't think about how little time I have left to live. Okay, so she's sick. We should have known that right away. There is no reason to manufacture tension by withholding information that we should rightfully be able to access if we're going to be in the perspective of the person who that information is about. And it's as big of a deal as her apparently having a terminal diagnosis of some kind. Another jump back in time, 2 months prior. So 4 months ago was when, the end of book 1, when she first met Cohen. 2 months, forward from that, 2 months backwards from present. This is the day that they shot this televised interview. So she's at the studio in the human territory. It was at the behest of Maddie Garcia, the human governor, who is kind of leading the charge of creating an alliance between humans and wares. I don't think that Misery and Lo are there. I think it's just Cohen and a bunch of human guards. She learns in the studio right before she's about to get, to go on for her interview, that as a hybrid, she's likely sterile. And it like hits her like a Mack truck. I don't understand how you didn't know that. I remember learning about that when I was in elementary school. Serena, I guess Lo/Misery, and Maddie Garcia had talked in advance. They decided that they were going to lie during this interview. They were going to continue to uphold the story that it was Davenport who was responsible for Serena's capture and for threatening her life. And they were not going to mention the vampires. I don't understand why they maintain that at this point. She talks about, in her perspective, I think it's the author trying to explain it, how it's just easier. It's a more palatable story for the audience to accept. I don't know that that's totally true. I can't imagine that they can't accept the fact that vampires might be bad. The interviewer asks her about speculation that there might be another hybrid. She really takes the opportunity to put that to bed. So they finish up the interview. Cohen's there. They get into the elevator with a bunch of other people. The first thing he asks her about is the sterility. And he's like, did you know? Bro, what a dick move. Like, she just went through some shit. Be kind for 10 seconds. You don't have to be such an asshole. There's these agents there talking about how, why would, it's ridiculous that she would ask for that because they would be the ones that would want to take her out first. I don't like her kind either. Do I think she should have come here? Fuck no. Women, they belong in the kitchen. I don't, though. I can't see Cohen's face, but the smile on his voice is blood-curdling. I get around. Would you like to apologize to the lady, or would you like to learn what that means? Cohen ignores them all. You have two options, shit muncher. I hate him. You can apologize to the lady that this very instant, or you can wait till later to be fucked up. Your choice. And don't worry, I won't be disappointed either way. God. So anyways, he ends up like kind of subtly slicing that guy's wrist open. And this was the moment that I realized I did not like this character of Cohen one bit. Not at all. Serena, though, is loving it. She does not even say one thing about the women belong in the kitchen line. I don't even understand what's happening. Is this a persona that he puts on where he's like super sexist and misogynistic? Why? He comes from a Ware society. Why the fuck would Wares have a women belong in the kitchen mentality? It's so bizarre. Doesn't even make sense. They are wolves half the time. They don't even use kitchens. One important thing, though, on the way outside of the building, there's like a big throng of people because it's this big televised event. And one guy's either saying, he has a sign or something that says like, blessed with the power of the blood and the blood of the power, the flesh shall be reborn. And it is truly insane that this is the only indication of a major plot. This is truly insane. This is the only indication of like a quite major plot point later on. Time jump to present. Cohen is carrying her into a safe house in the Northwest Territory. And we're getting more banter. That makes me want to claw my eyes out. If only I had the ability to shift. Ali Hazelwood definitely has a cadence as an author. And I think like, I find that a good thing typically with authors. I like when authors have kind of a certain cadence, a rhythm. When I read, I hear the words in my head as if somebody is talking. So I like when there's a cadence. However, I must admit that this one is not for me. The seconds are basically meaningless characters. They are given like no depth in the story. But they mention her cabin time. It's disappointing that we really just don't go very deep on her emotional state. She was just held captive. She was confirmed that she was a different species. She was moved out of her home territory, lost everything she ever knew, almost killed by a person that she knew well, the father of her sister, basically. And she herself killed a number of other people. So weird that she, in her internal monologue, is just kind of even keel and unbothered. She does stay lying to everybody. She's lying to everybody. I don't know. Again, we didn't really get a ton of information about her in the last book, even though the plot itself, obviously she was a big part of that. I do a Zoom with Misery and Lo. The Wares and human, societies at large are having, they're kind of in their honeymoon phase because of this existence of a hybrid. Misery's twin, Owen, is trying to get a council seat and kind of take some control over the Vampire Council, considering that there's these people who have put out a bounty for Serena. And Serena just remains unbothered. And in fact, at some point she offers a plan, which is that she will stay in the Northwest and she will offer herself up as bait. It's crazy how much of this story, every single person's emotional arc is tied up with this little girl who is heavily protected. Her brother is the alpha of a huge pack with tons of people, and she's also got a vampire there who cares. Like, she is well protected, but everything comes back to Anna, I swear to God. Everybody hates her plan. She has developed this insane martyr complex for no reason, and we don't even really acknowledge that that's exactly what's going on, except for one time that Cohen calls it out. Of course, Cohen ends the call, and she's like, thanks for backing me up, and he's like, no, that's not what's happening. I'll just lock you in my house to keep you safe. Remember, he doesn't care about her. She finally admits that she hasn't been able to shift for months and that she has been feeling very poorly. She's minimizing it though. This is where I'd like to chat about the fact that this book has one of my least favorite tropes, which is girl is sick and her sickness has zapped her appetite and caused her to feel nauseated all the time. And so she's emaciated, thin, her collarbones are jutting out, and we fetishize it. It's so weird that we do this. And this book is so weird about it. So she's like, can I stay in the Northwest? But also, will you not tell Lowen Misery what I've told you so far? And he's like, well, I don't know about that. And then she's like, I'll join your pack. What if you're my alpha? If that's the case, then we have alpha pack member privilege. And he's like, that doesn't exist. She's like, whatever, I'm in your pack now. I live in the Northwest. She's having dreams. She's having spicy, steamy dreams about Cohen, obviously. So she falls asleep, and then she's having all these dreams, and then she wakes up and she's immediately super duper sick. She's got she's much worse than she has made it out to seem when she has talked about it to anybody else. Once I'm a heap of perspiration and tears and shivers on the soft shower mat, that's when the fun starts. Some nights I only deal with the fever. Others, more and more frequent, my stomach demands its due. Luckily, when the first bout pours out of me, I'm standing right by the toilet bowl. It smells like acid and sickness and rot, and I gag even more. But once that's done, the pain recedes long enough for me to catch my breath. So I focus on the real issue. I'm about to burst into flames. She's super sick. We're almost at 100 pages, and we, in her head, don't know about the extent of how sick that she is. We're in her head. Boo. Time jump. 2 months back. We're at a were doctor's office, and he is in fact giving her a terminal diagnosis of something called CSD, cortisol surge disorder. Like I said, cortisol surge disorder is a very common illness for weres and a leading cause of death. But it's very unusual for a were as young as me to have CSD. I'm not responding to treatment, and my condition is deteriorating faster than you've ever seen before. I smile to show him that yes, I've been listening. When I first came to Dr. Henshaw, my biggest fear was that he would tell me that my odd hybrid biology was too much of a medical head scratcher to give me a diagnosis. It never occurred to me that my disease might be easy to identify but untreatable. Even if I'm not able to do much for you, there are still accommodations to be made. You'll need palliative care to treat your symptoms. We can and should involve your family and your closest friends, like Lo and the vampire, and give them as much time with you as possible. And she's just like, no, I'm not going to involve anybody. I refuse palliative care. He talks about the fact that, as the CSD progresses, her actions might become more unpredictable. And so she should tell people that she's going to be around. She's like, oh, no, then I'll just isolate myself completely and not tell anybody what's happening and just go die alone. I wrap my hand around the door handle, ready to leave, when Dr. Henshaw asks, what about the Northwest Alpha? Are you not his mate? I look at him over my shoulder. He won't care. It's only hormones, sex. The doctor cocks his head. I highly doubt that's true. Cohen's a grown man. I blink, feeling a burst of anger. I cannot worry about Cohen. I need to make sure that Misery and Anna are safe and taken care of. And does Dr. Henshaw... She met Anna 2 months ago. He can handle wanting to fuck someone and being told no, I say, voice acid with worry and something that feels too much like regret. If he can't, that's his problem. I walk out, pretending not to hear Dr. Henshaw tell me that if that's the impression I'm under, either I was lied to or I'm lying to myself. Purposefully obtuse, as I said. We are back at Cohen's house. She has another Zoom call with a were geneticist. And during this call, it is revealed that her dad was likely the were side, because remember, she's a hybrid of human and were. It was probably her dad's side that had the were. And that he was also props from the Northwest Territory, because the geneticist cannot find, she's, run the sequence of her DNA. She cannot find, isolate, or find the match in the records that she has access to, which is only really makes sense if he's from the Northwest, because an event happened in the Northwest like 20 years ago that really disrupted their records, and they don't really have adequate records. Weird, because that's Cohen's area. I wonder if all of this stuff is going to converge perfectly together. Cohen's in for the plan to use her as bait. He is going to parade her around the territory. So he takes her to Olympia, Washington, aka the Den for them. Does he have a girlfriend? Is that why he was so dismissive when, why do you smell so worried all of a sudden? Smell apathy, he asks, ushering me inside. Nothing. I take a few hesitant steps, wondering if I'll be mistaken for a home-wrecking intruder and deboned. What a way to go that would be. But I doubt it'll be mine, because with my first deep breath, I know who the cabin belongs to. She's like, I can't stay here because of the siesta, but she hasn't told him yet. And he says, okay, great. I got a plan. If you can prove to me that you can take care of yourself, then you can go wherever you want. So he takes her to Brenna's. Because the plot was entirely sidelined, everything is just a manufactured problem, a manufactured tension to extend the inevitable that's also telegraphed to us with blinding clarity from the very beginning. I don't know about you, I just don't find that to be that enjoyable of a reading experience. With the first book, the miscommunication that created the entire plot basically was that Misery didn't understand that Lo was her, or that she was his mate. She thought he didn't like her, and then when she asked him about it, he was like, no, even though it was obvious. And with this one, yeah, she knows that he's his mate, but she's lying to him about this illness, and then he's also lying to her. They're just lying and withholding information, and that's just going to come tumbling out at some point. So she has to fight this girl, this were Brenna. You didn't have to take me all the way here. You could have sparred with me yourself. I tilt my head. Unless you're afraid of me. His expression flattens. Sure, I'm afraid. It's not that I have better shit to do than to wrestle spoiled little girls who love wasting my time. My stomach drops. It's unnecessarily mean the way Cohen holds my eyes for a beat, as if to savor the hurt in them. Then he fondly clasps Brenna's shoulder, whispers something in her ear that has her smirking, and settles on the bench farthest away. It is just like so mean for no reason, just to have a conversation. You're supposed to be the alpha, and this is how you like deal with problems, especially once we know everything. This is it makes you look back at this and think like, wow, what a piece of shit, what a immature piece of shit who cannot actually settle a tense situation or handle any type of unexpected crisis ever. But she's had some self-defense training and everything, so she's like holding her own against Brenna, even though Brenna is an asshole to her. And also Brenna's one of his exes. It's an opportunity for like also a bit of a dump on some of the structure of the Northwest governance. There's the Alpha of the Northwest, which is currently Cohen, and then there's something called the Assembly, which basically is like the homeowners association of the Northwest. It's just like this overarching body, or I guess kind of like the Senate. 40 years ago, a little less, the pack of the Northwest split up, and apparently this was because of a disagreement between the former Alpha and the Assembly. The huddle separated and became self-governing. The Alpha remained in control of the core. And so, what happened to the core and the huddles, and like what made them reunite? Outsiders tried to destroy us. The Northwest's strength comes from its unity. When you look back at this, once you kind of get to the end of the book, it's crazy that she has multiple conversations about this where people are withholding so much important information. Brenna starts talking some shit. What the hell is this? Oh, my friend just had a baby. The worst part is we're both breathing heavily. Her blue eyes bore into mine and she tries to set up an arm bar, but this time on me. I wouldn't have wished this on him. This, I choke out. You. I don't want to be unfair. Your life has been hard, but I hope you will leave soon, Serena. I appreciate that you're trying to protect Lo's sister, but I hope you'll know better than to stick around once this is over. I'm not going to stick around, I puff out winded. I'll be out of your hair before you can swat me away, and you don't have to worry about Cohen and me. We're not together. The mate thing has no bearing on our relationship. Oh, I know. Her smile is strained. Believe me, we all know. Good. He explained the situation to you. He didn't need to explain any situation to anyone, she whispers in my ear. This is an insane thing to have said. There are 3 things I believe with utmost certainty. Death will come for all of us. No matter what, the sun will rise every morning. And Cohen is never, ever going to touch you. Not even if you beg him for it on your knees. Anyway, she loses that fight, so they're roommates. They go outside and there's a package waiting in the car, and she kind of goes for it, even though she's this super high-profile individual now because she's done this televised and she's like the only known hybrid. She just goes for a package left on her car, and he has to stop her. And this is an instance of it, but it happens all the time, constantly throughout the book. Again, he is just like picking her up like she's a little doll. It just constantly feels like it's literally like him one-handed picking her up. It's kind of done in a way that I don't even really understand the mechanics of it. The infantilization of this character is off the goddamn charts in this book, and I did not like it at all. One of my least favorite things to read about for a female character. Hated in this in particular. So this suspicious package is just like waiting there. Whoever dropped it knew the blind spots of the cameras outside of Brenna's fight studio, and also were able to cover their tracks. So the telepathy is not working. Obviously, a wear is involved in this, so there's some kind of like wear working against them. Inside is a necklace, a moon necklace with 3 scratches and a note that says, "From your mother." Her mother is alive? Serena's been called an orphan this whole time. I never even thought about the fact that her parents are alive, and she's just not trying to investigate that more than just having the genetics. Like, she's not looking into it herself even more. She doesn't really it's weird. She doesn't really do anything in this book. Like, she's not take any type of initiative to help herself in any way, not even with the medical thing. I'll just say I've been diagnosed with a chronic disorder before. I still have problems with it. It wasn't terminal, it wasn't fatal or anything like that. It had to do with my ears. Oh my God, sinusitis, yes. But the sinusitis is the cause for the tinnitus. I'm just going to call it tinnitus, but tinnitus. I went to a doctor about it. They said it was because I had hearing loss, even though it was before they even did an auditory test on me. Then I got the auditory test done, and I had my results back, and I had the hearing of a 3-year-old. So I did not have hearing loss, but I did have this ring in my ear. So thus began an truly year-long brigade on my part trying to figure out any possible solution to this chronic illness. I was obsessive. I wish that there was some amount of her taking the initiative to try to figure out her own body. I mean, they imply that the doctor who gave her the diagnosis is the second doctor that she saw, but only 2 doctors. You're a hybrid. You have a different biology. Back at Cohen's, I dislike their dynamic very strongly. He's grumpy, but he's like a crotchety grumpy at times. Actually, you know what? His character is like all over the place. Sometimes he's really fucking mean and nasty in a covert way. Sometimes he's just like a big old puppy dog. It kind of felt like whatever the author needed at that moment, he was gonna be. He tries to use his alphaness to help her shift. He's basically like, okay, close your eyes and meditate, and I'm gonna try to draw the shift out of you, I guess, because I'm an alpha. It doesn't work. She opens her eyes, and she's drenched in sweat, and she's wearing a white shirt and no bra. And of course immediately both horny, fully attentive. She's getting full on manic pixie dream girl treatment because she's just running around no bra, wearing his clothes all the time. That diffuses, nothing happens, but it's supercharged sexually, so they're both super hot for each other. But cool, we're not going to do anything about that for a long time. Put that away, put that on a high shelf, because we cannot touch that anytime soon. We have to spend a bunch of time just waffling in the ether of a bunch of half-formed plot points. This is like the first time she's considered her own parents truly and considered trying to reach out to them. Girl, what are you doing? She's an adult who did at least start to try to research her own background once things started to happen. This is all in the last book. She went against entire factions of species that didn't want her to do anything. And now she's constantly acting like she's anywhere between 11 and 14 years old. Even though they killed the vampire, they didn't stop to grab any of her stuff. And so she gets to this house and she just wears his clothes. And remember, he's a big man, and she's so little teeny tiny. So they decide to go shopping for clothes for her. It's right in with this weird characterization of her as like, that makes her feel childlike, where they're driving through the Pacific Northwest, which is gorgeous, but it's talking about how she's like pressing her nose against the glass and like exclaiming like, ooh, oh. Yeah, it's great to look at beautiful vistas through the countryside. I love taking a drive through a beautiful area, but I don't press my nose against the glass. Did you hit your head during the events of the last book? She has, for some reason, nothing to her. She's like, doesn't even have her ID or her wallet. She has no money. Daddy Cohen's gonna buy you some clothes. And she's like, no, you can't buy me any clothes. This conversation is very tedious. He sounds distracted as he glances around. Well, prepare to be tedious even more. You're not going to pay for my stuff. It's infantilizing. His dark eyes travel down my body, slowly, as if I could ever do that, he draws. I'm on the same page. Just intimidated by how sophisticated Carter looks. It doesn't help that my pants are Cohen's sweats, rolled up about 5 times, giving me an exquisite toddler wearing life buoy at the pool je ne sais quoi. That's not going to be the last time that we make a pretty overt comparison between her and a toddler or a child. I cannot express to you enough how much I dislike that. Crazy work to call it out and just keep doing it. This is where I started to note that this is like feeling very Twilight coded. In this book, the Wares walk around naked in the Northwest, I guess, when they're in their human form. So she's like just walking after they grab the clothes. She's like walking outside and she's seeing a couple walk away naked. I guess it's like a way to acknowledge the whole kind of thing that authors usually do, which is that werewolves burst into their wolf form, effectively shredding their clothes, and then they come back later and it's just their regular sized jeans have been turned into cutoffs. More, my instincts scream at me. More, make him smell like you. But Cohen's breathing speeds up, and he twists his head away after shuddering in something that could very well be revulsion. It's not! And you know that! But by all means, let's drag this out. You know how I love to move at a glacial pace. At one point, Cohen comes in, says something, refers to his own seconds as twat waffles, and truly this is torture at this point. This is a form of torture. Cohen is mad that she made dinner for all of the seconds, of course, and she's being sassy and unbothered about it, of course. At this little impromptu gathering, Brenna's brother, a younger guy, confronts her, saying that she should not be there, that the pack hates her, that Cohen likely hates her because of her allegiances, and I swear to God we did do this in the last book, literally this. But yeah, it is just him acknowledge, like he just kind of full on confronts her and he's like, you should be dead, we hate you, Cohen hates you, everybody hates you. When I look over, Cohen's a couple feet away, looking bored. Mouthy, isn't she, Bowden? He sighs. Never thought I'd be into that, and yet, bane of my fucking existence. His eyes flit to mine. Don't stop on my account, he says with a lopsided smile. I love watching asses being ridden. It's my favorite kind of porn. Excuse me, what, sir? Aren't you in charge of this? The kid keeps it up, says that half the people in the pack, like, want her dead, they hate her. And then Cohen does a big touch her and die speech. And so he slings his arm around her in front of everybody. It's more to make a point than anything. There is nothing from her, like, to acknowledge, why are you fucking with my head like this? Like, why do you do this in front of people? But you also are you blow so hot and cold on me. I cannot understand what's going on. She doesn't do anything like that, even inside her own head. And it doesn't make sense. There's a piano in his house, and she's going to teach him to play the piano. And it's happening, like, right at that moment at this party. And I guess that's the plot now. Oh my God, I hop down from the counter, wrap my hand around 2 of his fingers, and pull him to the bedroom. That is so, I guess it could be sexy. Hold on, let me see if I can do this in a way that's like sexy. There's something about that reads, if it was just that, and it was not everything else that we've heard so far, no big deal. But everything else that we've heard so far makes that weirdly juvenile. The piano just has a stool, not a bench. He pulls her onto his lap. He's like running his hand up her leg towards her V, and she just kind of like traps it in, she like clamps him in her thighs. And he says, I told you I'm not interested. My guy, what are you doing? What are you doing here? One of his seconds interrupts them, thank God. We get an update on the vampire situation. More coming for him, more dead. This guy who just came in his oldest second, he's not that old. He's like maybe in his 40s, which finally Serena uses that little noggin of hers, and she thinks, oh, this man is not old, and this is her oldest. So what happened that caused this massive fracture in the Northwest, took out a bunch of wares, all of one generation, and left a 15-year-old kid, because we found out that Cohen has been alpha for 21 years. He's currently 36 years old, so he took charge when he was 15. I'm mostly reading this to emphasize how much every single character in this book sounds the exact same and has the exact same cadence and style of speaking and sense of humor and dialogue. He's horny as fuck, Amanda says, taking pity on me, at the mercy of his own lustful concupiscence. Probably jerks off every 3 hours. I assume you're about to say that? Every single person in this talks the same. Serena says something about how like he could just go and fuck somebody else. It's obviously the problem's me. He doesn't like me. Amanda's looking at her for like a while, and then she's like, has nobody told you? She takes a deep breath, runs the back of her hand over her mouth, and then resigns herself to be the one to give me the news. Serena, the alpha of the Northwest Pack, is traditionally asked to honor a celibacy covenant. He's forbidden by law to engage in any kind of intimate relationships, emotional or physical. We're at page 175. Why the ever-loving heck could he have not told her that from the beginning? Why? What good reason did he have not to say that? None. But is Cohen an adult version? I'm intrigued. All over the alphas, all over the territories. And one guy did it badly when he rolled it back, and the Northwest was like, nope, we got to keep it. Convenient. Was that 4 decades ago, the alpha before Cohen? A little less than that, but yeah, she sets the mug down as if she'll need all of her limbs for this. She was a fantastic alpha. Also, she was in love and unapologetic about it. She asked the assembly to rescind the covenant. According to my mother, at the time, the assembly was a crock of geezers whose main hobby was to shake their fists at the clouds. Or maybe they were just cautious. They studied every known case of alpha misconduct, came up with 100 scenarios in which revoking the covenant would lead to an asteroid shower extinguishing all aerobic life, and denied her. Is that why the Huddles seceded? Yep, and I was born within the Corps that year. And the Huddles, even after partitioning, most members' instinct was still to unite under one alpha. The assembly continued to exist as an entity to ensure good relations among the Huddles, which all formed a loose alliance. I'm just going to spoil it right now. The person that she's talking about, the woman alpha that she's talking about, who was the alpha before Cohen, it's Cohen's own mother. And I don't know why Amanda would not be forthcoming about that. I don't have any understanding why she would not just tell her that in the conversation, because obviously Serena doesn't have a clue about any of the shit going on, but she doesn't. The geneticist friend calls and tells Serena that her mom's side was likely from an area in the Rockies that was along the eastern border of the Northwest Territory. This is the first time that Serena really considers reaching out to her mom. The next day, Serena is finally giving Cohen this like haircut and shave that has been mentioned. We've just been talking about his hair and facial hair situation so much. During that, who happens to show up? 2/3 of the assembly, here to inquire about the covenant that Serena just learned about. Remember, this celibacy covenant that they have put upon these wolves. The point is to supposedly maintain a neutral figure at the top. Alpha should be neutral. It is insane that we don't then address what a mate would do to that equation. Because a mate, as it's described in here, it's more than love at first sight. You would immediately give your life for this other person, and it's beyond your control. So why is there not an exemption to this covenant for that? We already know that that's how he feels about her. We already are hearing about how she's rearranged his atoms or whatever. Truly Hazelwoodian talk. What does this fucking covenant even then matter? She's his mate. He is compromised. The existence of a mate just clearly like just disqualifies anything about the covenant and what it's supposed to do. But they don't even reference, they don't talk about it at all. But she's also like bossing him around because she's actively giving him a shave, which they rightfully notice is something that's very out of normal behavior for him. So it's like, yeah, there's an effect. Cohen takes her to a different doctor, his doctor. The idea there is just that he might be able to recognize her scent. Spoiler, no. She gets overwhelmed. She goes outside and she's like, walking on the property, and then she feels somebody behind her and she turns around and it's a naked guy. Where a character is calling her Eva, saying she's divine, saying, come with me. You need to come with me. And she says no. This other Where mentions somebody named Constantine, asks her again to come with him. She says no. She doesn't know him. And he's not even using the right name. And then he just says, okay, if you're not going to come with me, understood. And then he just straight up throws himself off of a cliff and dies. At least a semblance of a plot emerges. Remember back in the chapter 2, I mean, this is probably chapter 18. Chapter 18. But in chapter 2, there was a brief mention of somebody who had some kind of religious-y sign outside of the studio when she went and did that televised interview. Constantine's dead, no doubt about it, but he was the leader of a very destructive group. This Constantine guy was the leader of this destructive were cult, and that's cool. Show me more of that. Someone's gonna go to the assembly. He's got to go talk to the assembly. Serena says she'll stay. They share a very charged hug. Things are slipping through. She wakes up that night in the midst of one of her fevers. She's like dripping sweat. I lurch into Cohen's bathroom. The underwear and flannel I'm wearing are so sweat soaked, it hurts to peel them off my skin. I turn on the faucet, make sure the water is gelid. Serena! I turn around. My heart sinks. Cohen is wearing yesterday's clothes and must have just returned. He inhales deeply, staring at my nearly naked body, focusing on the fat drops of sweat rolling between my breasts. She's feeling shitty, but she's also like really intrigued by him and his smell, which is it's a clue. But he gets her in the bath, and then she just passes out. She wakes up to the most beautiful piano music she's ever heard, because of course Cohen plays the piano, you dumb idiot. Like a maestro. Again, so Twilight coded. You cannot convince me otherwise. You cannot convince me that Ali Hazelwood did not write this book over one long weekend where she binged all of the Twilight movies. Sure, okay, maybe Stephenie Meyer does not own vampires, humans, and werewolves in the Pacific Northwest, talking about cabins and things like that, piano music, a female main character who's going through some kind of really extreme body change that's completely incapacitating her, a celibacy covenant of some sort. Sure, maybe she doesn't own all of those things, but it's a little suspicious. Finally, Cohen knows about the CSD, and he's like, it can be treated, and she's like, not because of my special biology. And he points out how fucked up it was about the whole misery situation at the cabin. Guilt stuffs my throat full. This is the part I'm most embarrassed to speak out loud, but I force myself to do it anyway. One night I woke up in Anna's room with no idea how I'd gotten there. Cohen inhales sharply, like he already knows where this is going. You didn't hurt her, Serena. No, but I could have. I was boiling hot and disoriented, and CSD patients can often experience aggressive episodes, and I shake my head. It's for the best. If I told Misery, she'd want to be with me, but Anna needs her more than I do, so Anna must be exhausted from having to carry the emotional weight of every single thing that happens in these books. Every single major choice revolves around the 7-year-old. Truly. Serena and Cohen are still talking about this, her diagnosis, because he's like, it can be treated. CSD has a treatment. And she's kind of like, no. And at one point she says, the thing is, I try to explain, it might be for the best. I feel like she needs therapy. She has a conversation on the phone with Misery about this whole Constantine situation. Serena makes a reference about Constantine calling him the Rasputin of wares, which is weird because I feel like she then gets information about from Misery about Constantine that Misery got through low. The fact that he was not the first leader of this cult, in this were cult. There were a couple generations, but he was the smartest and he was most effective. One of his things was sex rituals, or like using sex. The whole promise of this cult was that non-wares could be turned into wares, which is why there were humans involved in the cult. And there was this talk of blood and transformation, and that was kind of his big promise to his cult followers, was that non-wares could become wares. Still, I don't know that our lives necessarily needed a cult plot line. Apparently, Lowe and Cohen both knew about this cult from the beginning of this book. They knew about the cult, but they thought that they had counted for all of the children. And so they didn't say anything to either Serena or to Misery. And I'm sorry, but that would just be me getting up and leaving these people. I would be getting the heck out of there. What do you mean? Why are you not forthcoming about anything, even information that would be useful for her to know and that she has a right to know? She comes out of the room and Cohen's there, and so are a bunch of his seconds. She makes another suggestion to be used as bait, this time for the cult. Girl, what's going on? Please go find a trusted person that you can talk to. I really, something is not right with Serena. Cohen says, we're going to sleep in the same bed tonight. So she wakes up again in the midst of the fever, the nausea, the whole entire situation. Cohen goes to draw her a cold bath. Suddenly, no, that's not what she wants. She's really fixated on him. She's really turned on. She's all horned up for this man. That's all she wants. And of course, now we know there's the celibacy covenant. So we know that he can't. This is when I realized, okay, I kind of already had, it was brewing. This was the confirmation scene. Okay, she does not have CSD. She's got a fever, and the only prescription is more cowbell. And by cowbell, I do mean his dick. That's what's happening. She is sick for him. That love is so hard that she needs him. I don't know. It made sense, but I also don't know that I loved this as the progression personally. I don't know that we needed to delay for so long to actually understand what's going on with Serena. He's like, can't do it because of the covenant. So instead he just kind of holds her in his lap and kind of walks her through a solo session. It's very church teen who went to church teen camp, and we're finding every possible loophole to avoid getting in trouble. How close is too close? She's sitting in your lap. You're kind of guiding her hand. She's licking your neck. That's the only way that she can find her release. But I guess he's still not broken his covenant. Like the last book, lots of talk of licking the neck, the skin, glands. I don't think this is going to be the last time I mention it, because there was so much sexual and erogenous talk about specifically using the word gland, to a degree that honestly it started to become repulsive to me. It was hard to read. It made me a little bit nauseated myself. This book almost borderline became a body horror at a point. I have been sick before with fevers and chills. It's not a sexy situation. Nauseated. It's not a sexy situation. There's so much over talk about it. And then when it does shift, there's so much talk about glands and skin and smell, and it was just kind of, I'm not an Omegaverse reader, so maybe it's just that thing. It lost me a bit. Weirdly, because it kind of worked for me last time. I thought there were some good scenes in the last one, but maybe it was just all of this, the talk of sweating and chills and nausea and fever, and maybe something about that kind of turned me off. Cohen takes her back to that same doctor. That's his doctor, were doctor, and the were doctor's wife is a midwife, and she confirms what we all knew, which is that Serena's not dying from CSD. No, she's in heat. Our female main character is in heat. Kind of breaks down what's going to happen for her. Cohen's kind of in the room at first, and then he does leave at some point, but she's breaking down the situation. Serena is going to, she has not yet gone into heat. Sorry, she's not yet. She's pre-heat. She is, as she goes into heat, she's going to be overcome with this desire to nest. And then she's also obviously going to become overcome with the desire to procreate. Once it starts, you need to isolate yourself with a partner for 2 weeks. Don't even get delivery because your partner will murder the poor guy, bringing y'all a large pepperoni pizza. Oh, that's not in the books. I think I just wrote that as a summary. But that's pretty much what she says. Of course, this doctor is part of Cohen's pack, part of the Northwest. So this midwife, she says it cannot be with Cohen, obviously. So you'll have to find somebody else. And internally and kind of externally, Serena is saying, I can't even imagine doing this with anybody else. So you need to figure out a way to not have me go into heat. So this midwife's like, well, maybe we can do a large shot of progesterone, but I don't even know if it would work. And it might actually do some harm to you health-wise. And Serena is just like, nope, we gotta do it. Because the alternative, according to this midwife, is that if Cohen breaks his celibacy covenant, that will trigger a succession war, or the assembly could just try to succeed again. What a lovely, not contrived situation that we have all found ourselves in. We finally get Serena acknowledging that she isn't dying, but we don't get her acknowledging the fact that she has basically spent this entire book kind of thinking and being okay with, and if not putting herself up to be in a situation where she will die sooner. And it's crazy that we're just not going to acknowledge that. She's been cooking for seconds this whole entire book. That's about the only thing that she really does. Man, the way that this book took all the teeth out of Serena as a character just really flipped her right on her back and was just like, you're not going to do anything cool at all. You're going to be at home. You're going to be dying but not really understand why or really investigate it. And then you're going to be cooking and nesting. This whole time, Cohen has been refusing to eat her cooking, and he finally does, and it's amazing. The chapter ends with her going into another situation, another preheat heat. She's sweating through her shirt. He's got an erection that could warp steel. They are going through this, and for some reason, these wolves, even though it should all be about rationality with these wolves, right? They're talking about it. There should be no reason that they have to put themselves through this situation, especially considering the fact that they're mates. They, at one point, about halfway through the book, there starts to become this repeated phrase from Cohen to Serena where he's constantly saying, we are not human, we are not human, we are not human. You want to know the most human thing ever? To use the withholding of sex as a tool to control people. Animals do not do that. Animals do not do celibacy as a control mechanism. Animals might do celibacy if there's a situation where they understand that they wouldn't be able to bring a offspring to term, or if there's a situation, they might be low on food or something like that. But animals do not just abstain for sex as a control or social mechanism. That's human shit. Why is there no exemption for a mate who's in heat? I can't believe I even have to say these words out loud. She is his mate. She is in heat. He is there. He is an alpha, and he's just supposed to deny his biological priming? And back to gland talk. The gland on my upper back aches, pulsating sweetly with every word he says. Oh, God. That one still is hard for me to read. Whenever I think of glands and being aware of glands, all I can think of is being really sick. His desire is so thick, all-encompassing. I don't know how he can stop himself. But when I lean forward and nip at his gland, he simply lets out a deep, rumbly grunt and talks to me like I'm the only person in the universe. The first time I saw you, I thought that of course the universe would deliver someone with the most perfect pair of tits I'd ever seen and then yank her away from me. It's hard to keep my hands off you, killer. And you never wear anything under my shirts. I hate bras. So by the end of the chapter, she's like, I know you made a promise, but are you sure? And he's just like, killer, I would give everything in the entire world, but so that's exactly why I can't do it. And she's like, okay, well, so we already admit that the feeling is there, so why can't we just do it? He's basically breaking up with her. And we finally get the story of why this covenant is important to him. And it turns out that the female alpha before Cohen, who was being referenced, I said this already, by Amanda in a conversation, that was his mom and it was his dad who was used against her. Basically, Constantine used his dad to lure his mom out to somewhere that she should not have just gone solo, and she did. And then he challenged her and he killed her. Cohen had to go as a kid and challenge Constantine, and then he killed him. And so it was this whole big disaster on so many levels. But the takeaway that Cohen had from this, very life-altering experience was that he shouldn't have sex with anybody, even though he's already got a mate, and we already know that he cares about her so much that he's going to change all of his behavior for her. He shakes his head. They call it the celibacy covenant, but it's a misnomer. It puts all the focus on the sex, when what's really forbidden to alphas is to form bonds that might interfere with their ability to serve the pack. You've already done that. You've already formed the bond. The bond was formed for you by biology and fate or whatever. That's why you have a mate. That's what that is. It is a relationship that takes precedent against or above all others. It's already done. And it happens semi-routinely, not common, but at least common enough that it should be part of this rule. There should be some kind of subsection. He breaks up with her right before, I forgot to mention, they're having this talk, capital T, outside on a bench right outside the clinic where she's about to go get shot full of progesterone to stop her heat. This man is a menace. He's a nightmare. He's out of there. Another thing I want to mention is that it's so crazy that we did all of this focus on smelling and using smell to smell the smellepathy, her ability to decipher everybody's feelings and thoughts through their smell. And we didn't talk about the fact, why would she not have been able to smell the fact that he was lying when he said it was anything other than love and adoration? I don't have smellepathy, but I feel like that kind of feeling towards another person would be if he could smell jealousy or anger on her, she should have been able to smell his love the whole time. How's that not like the most pungent aroma? Feeling that type of love for somebody actually does cause your body to create or excrete certain chemicals, but we just don't get into that at all, because one tiny little pull of a single thread kind of unravels this whole thing. So she goes into the clinic and immediately her smellepathy is going and she knows that something's up. She pulls out her phone to kind of quickly call Cohen, and somebody kicks the phone out of her hand, and it's this aware Jess, who she briefly met through Saul, one of Cohen's seconds. She's turned on her. She's the baddie. She's the one who dropped off the necklace and everything like that. So Jess and Serena kind of grapple a little bit, but ultimately she is able to apprehend Serena, and they kind of turn around, and it's a couple different wares, and they have the midwife with a scalpel to her neck, and they're like, you can either do this one of two ways, Eva, because it's the cult people, do this the easy way and she won't get scalpeled, or you can do it the hard way. And so Serena agrees, of course. Finally, we have plot, but we are speed running through because we are almost at page 300, and basically the whole rest of the book, so much happens just back to back to back. And I have to say, I thought it was really a big plotting or pacing issue with this book, that so much important stuff all happens at the tail end. I don't know why we couldn't have restructured to have a couple more interesting things have happened between page 10 and page 200. Serena wakes up. She is unchained. She's in a house. There's nobody watching her. She walks outside. She eventually talks to this woman. Her name's Irene. Turns out Irene is her aunt. She reveals to Serena that she knew her mother, and her mother was in this cult called the Favored. Serena is not just being hunted by this cult. She was born into this cult, which means that her mother was a cult member and her father was, you guessed it, Constantine. All of this stuff is perfectly wrapped together. All of these different characters, all of their storylines are totally entwined, perfectly wrapped together with a bow on it. Sure. She glides toward me, all witchy cottagecore vibes. Please no. Please no. So the cult is basically, I think, not a very interesting take on a cult. It feels like a very much just kind of a lifted from human cults kind of thing, like plural marriage type of cults. But Constantine had all of these women. That was the whole, I guess, plan to make somebody who wasn't aware into aware, was just to have relations with non-aware women and then have hybrid children. And I don't think it seemed to have worked most of the time, but in Serena's case it did, and that's why she's kind of exalted and revered by the existing cult members still. She's the child of the prophet and proof of what he was saying. This cult is so reminiscent in the way it's depicted, in its practices, in the language that's used, to human cults existing in our worlds that traditionally they are built around a concept of a religion or a figure in religion. It's a little bit bizarre to adopt all of the language and trappings and never address an actual god or religious figure or religious system. Irene, Serena's aunt, is not keeping her captive, but she's like, but I have these letters from your mother. And so Serena could leave and warn everybody, because she knows that what Irene is doing is using her as bait to lure Cohen. She's finally getting what she wished and being used as bait. And instead of Serena just popping out of there, calling Cohen and giving him the 411 or whatever, she just stays there and continues to talk to Irene. And Irene gives her a letter written by Serena's mother, and it details basically the events of what happened in the prologue. We find out that Serena was that girl. She was born in the cult. Things had already started to get violent. The other wares were hunting down this cult because they were destructive and violent. The person who was there, who got her out of the closet, was Cohen, the newly minted super young alpha of the Northwest who had to lead these raids. Irene is aware of Serena's heat, and she's like, we got you, girl. We got plenty of wares for you to choose from. You can do it here. No, thank you. It's weird. Serena stays there long enough that Cohen does break in after her, or he does get apprehended coming after her, and he is alone, and he's done exactly what his mom did, and it's all perfectly circular. Everything is mirroring everything else. And Serena says, oh, you idiot, why did you, in her head, she's like, why did you come alone? Do you think he did? Cohen's in the room. He's bound. Irene's like, tell her. I already knew that Cohen killed Constantine. He already said that, and we've just found out that Constantine is Serena's dad. So Cohen killed Serena's dad, Constantine, who in fact killed his dad and his mom. And then Irene continues to push, and it comes out that Serena's mom also died by one of the Northwest. And Cohen says, if it was me or if it was one of my seconds, I was the person leading the raid, I take the responsibility, I killed her as well. So Cohen says, I killed both your mom and your dad. And Irene's like, ha, see, he's terrible. And then she gives Serena this little knife that had already been introduced into the story, and she's like, take your revenge. And we are all witnessing this, and there's no real tension, because we all know that there's not one single second where Serena was going to do anything other than use the knife to free his binds. And at that exact same moment, all of the other wolves from the Northwest Pack pour into the room by breaking through the windows, and they totally neutralize this threat. And so the cult is taken out somewhat. Oh, what a tangled web this whole situation is. What an incredible coincidence that all of this stuff is connected, and also she is his mate, and he might also be hers. Quickly going back to this whole prologue situation, I do find a little bit icky. I don't love that he met her as a child, and then I guess small favors that he didn't realize the mating bond was there when she was a 3-year-old when they first met. A deviation from the Stephenie Meyer playbook. However, having them meet when she was initially very young does feel, I'm not going to be able to say it enough, it feels extremely Twilight coded. I don't know if you can convince me that this is not a fan fiction between Jacob and the daughter Renesmee. because that's kind of how it's feeling. There's just so many coincidental lineups, except for the fact that obviously Jacob and Cohen are completely different characters. They're all back at Cohen's cabin in the den, and she's there. Some of his seconds are there. She finds out it's too late for her to get this progesterone shot. She's not going to be able to stave off this heat. It's coming, baby. Instead, everybody who's there is just like, okay, well, we're going to leave, and we're going to leave you and Cohen here, and whatever happens, that's just how could we know? How could we know? And what follows is the most insane fuckfest I have ever read in a book. It is absolutely inordinate. Dimples, very cute, wholesome, really, ready to be defiled. He leans in and his tongue traces the cleft of the right one. Come on, Serena. Damn, how deep are these dimples? Come on, Serena. What? I thought you were joking. Joke some more. A lot of gland talk, gland mentions, and every single time they do it, they both arrive like 4 times. And of course, we get a lot of mention of the old loop-de-loop. Oh, wait, is this the part that I hate? I gasp for air and he shouts out his pleasure when I suck his gland as hard as I can. Oh, God. Oh, this is a part that I truly despised. After weeks of truancy, my appetite returns at the worst possible time. I decide to give it the cold shoulder and focus on what's rapidly becoming my favorite thing in the world. Thrashing around and begging Cohen to do something, anything, everything to me. Unfortunately, he really did educate himself about heats. Not only did he memorize some doctor's office pamphlet, but he's also extremely literal about it. We can start again after you have a strawberry, he tells me. One more sip of juice, like that. Be good. Give me one more. Open up. No, not later. Now. You have to drink. A kiss against the flushed skin of my throat. Girls in heat only get what they ask for if they finish their water. That's stomach turning, dude. That's really bizarre to write it in a way that infantilizes her to that degree, to literally treat her like a toddler who's having a tantrum right in the middle of what they're doing. That is like, I'm sorry, I find that beyond the pale, quite truly beyond. What is going on? Why did it have to be like that? After 4 days, her heat breaks. She's able to shift again. Yay. If you were wondering about that vampire plot line, that was really more of a plot dash. It's all wrapped up in one sentence. Something with Owen. He's figured it out. And then Cohen says he's going to step down as alpha because apparently she said that she loved him or needed him during their whole 4-day adventure. Serena says, you can't do that. And it kind of ends in a question mark. But Nellie, the religious girl that was saved, they saved from the cult, she asks for a meeting with both Cohen and Serena. They go to her to meet with her. She's talking with them. She's, all like nervous, but ultimately she outs with it. And Irene, Serena's aunt, had been stocking up weapons. Of course. I mean, it's just like such doomsday religious cult, like perfectly lifted and just laid over top this world, because why would we want to actually investigate what a were cult or a half were, half human cult would really look like? We'll just take what already exists in pop culture all the time. The prophet's birthday. Constantine, Serena's dad's birthday, is in 2 days, and apparently Irene and her followers, the cult followers, were stocking up. Serena offers to be bait yet again, but it's with a twist. They are going to use Serena as bait to bait the cultists, who they are not going to realize are being baited, and then the cultists are going to be the bait for the Northwest Pack, and they will be able to track that bait to where the cultists are for this event, and oh my god, what is even happening? I think at this point we can say that they are all proper master baiters. They embed a GPS tracker in Serena's arm and then have her kind of go to this property that used to belong to her dad/grandfather with Amanda and set it up so that Amanda takes a call and leaves Serena on her own. And it's just immediate. The cultists swarm, they capture her, they take her to wherever their other safe house. Step one of the plan has worked effectively. They didn't imagine, and I don't know why, is that Irene takes the tracker out of her arm. I thought for sure they were like, the tracker is going to be, then the plan is to have the tracker, it's really visible, so the plan is to have the tracker taken out, but apparently not. Irene does have it taken out, and then it's put into somebody else, and so it's the plan is out the window. And then Serena, she's able to get away from her, the people who are keeping her captive, because she is finally able to shift again because she's gone through her heat. She gets outside and there's like this huge fire. Cohen is there and he's saving a girl, one of the cult girls, from the fire, and he doesn't realize that Irene has a gun and she's, you know, like lining up. This whole entire scene is from Serena as her wolf perspective, which is slightly different than her human perspective, but she recognizes Cohen as her, the person she loves. She risks herself and she jumps, and basically at the same time that Irene pulls the trigger, and it turns out that she takes the bullet, but it's like a cut to black. For 1/2 second maybe we think that something could have actually happened. It would have been awesome if Serena died in that moment. Sorry, just anything that would have been a surprise would have felt like just a breath of fresh. Just the coolest sip of water on a hot summer day. Give me anything that is actually unexpected. I would have died. I would have immediately stacked 2 more stars onto this if there was like a major unexpected something. But no, Serena wakes up in the hospital. She's okay. She was shot in the arm. Misery's there. Misery has found out she had this disease and she was going to die, and she was just going to not tell Misery, and Misery's like, hey, not cool, man. Whereas I feel like if I were Misery, I would be like, hey, what's going on with you? Do you need to talk to somebody, please? Let's get you in therapy immediately, or just let's have any conversation. The most we get is that Serena's like, but your life was going so well, and I just kind of felt like I should not be in it. What? Girl. The secrets are out. Misery completely, forgives her. If all is right with the girlies. They end that chapter with clipping each other's toenails. Serena reveals to Misery that she does want to stay in the Northwest because she goes back and she talks to Cohen. She reveals he is her mate, and he's like, yeah, I know. I knew. I've known. Why could we not have had one decent, honest conversation? Why? What? Why? He never once offered up key information to her when he had the chance to do so. He never once did that. Serena girl, I'm sorry. I gotta say, your dude, no good. Red flags up and down. I don't think that you should stay with this man. But of course, she does. And oh my gosh, she's like, well, so now that we're both mates, and we both love each other, and we both make each other better, and everything's great, and I just think that the assembly should really understand that. And he's like, oh, they do? Huh? Oh, yeah, they realize that you and I being mates, it's actually making each other better, and so they rescinded the covenant. Of course. We end with an epilogue, and it's not a very cool one, and he's absolutely champing at the bit to gnaw on her a little bit, to give her a little how. You know what? I had to read this, and so you guys have to suffer with me. I missed you, she says instead of yes, licking the gland under his jaw, and he doesn't bother telling her that he missed her back because it feels so fucking redundant when he's trying to inhale her. Serena, he mouths against her temple, and he can't control himself. Maybe she can't either, and that is when it happens. It almost feels like a miscalculation on her part, because one moment she's kissing and sucking his gland, and the next her teeth sink into the skin of his neck. The pleasure is as stupefying as it is annihilating. He doesn't come in his pants, but it's a close thing. Then she pulls away. She licks her lips, and he discovers that they are dark with his goddamn blood. That time, he does come a little bit. He's dazed, overwhelmed in the best possible way. Oop, found a typo. He truly is not sure how to communicate to her that he's never been harder, happier, and more certain of the existence of a benevolent God than he is right now. Yeah, he grunts. There's some blood trickling down the column of his throat because she butchered his gland. He feels her arch up to lick it, and perfection. His mate is perfect. He'll massacre anyone who tries to take her from him, of course. At the very end, he bites her right on the gland. I don't know, guys. I don't know about all that gland stuff. I can take a lot. I'm not a particularly squeamish person, I don't think. I've definitely got more squeamish as I've gotten older, but... STEAM! Women in STEAM. Science, technology, engineering, the arts, and math. There you go, Ali, Ms. Hazelwood, if you nasty. 2 stars. No, I guess I'll give it a 3. 3 stars for me. And I just wish that we would have refocused our attention and our effort to create a more fleshed out world, or a more comprehensive story that gave agency to the main character and didn't reduce her to a number of tropes that I found really unappealing. Yeah, I think that there was, I guess, an interesting story in here, but I don't even know exactly how I would say that it could get better. I think it just really needed, for me, I wish that the author had just kind of gone back to square one and really reworked some things. But big thing, I'm not really a contemporary romance reader, but I do love paranormal romance. And I think part of what's disappointing to me about this is, as a paranormal romance reader, I'm used to books that use paranormal romance to investigate some assumptions and some nuance within what we consider these mythologies, these lores of these common figures or these common creatures, vampires, werewolves, immortals, sirens, whatever, witches, warlocks types of thing. And I felt like there was just so little curiosity about the figures, the creatures, and it kind of just felt like trapping on a contemporary romance story. So it was just that's not for me. That's not why I come to paranormal. I want the paranormal side first, or as fleshed out as the romance side. But I also don't even think that this was like a super great romance. I think it had the beats of a romance. It had tension, it had reluctance. Some of the things that were set up just really didn't pay off in any meaningful way. Cohen being set up as this super alpha dude, but who also, it sounds like, should have probably been a virgin, and she definitely wasn't. And then when they finally do the deed in the 3rd act, he's totally knowledgeable, has no inabilities, shows no inexperience, and she is more overwhelmed and overcome again by his massive dong that grows even more massive because it's not for me. That's a really, really lame joke. Where was the plot? There's not even a single howl. Like, howling wasn't even mentioned. But heats? I feel like a heat for a female animal is not like it was described in this, but that's maybe something that I could research on my own time. That's it. That's Mate. Would I recommend it? No, definitely not. Maybe for the chuckles, but I don't even think that... I was definitely not laughing at the parts that you were supposed to be laughing at. Chime in the comments with your thoughts. I would love to hear. Like and subscribe. Thank you so much. And if anybody has anything that they really want me to cover next, please pop that suggestion down there below, and I will absolutely consider it.